There are 15 different ways to retire early and reach financial independence. Some paths can get you there in less than 5 to 10 years, while others may take 20, 30, or even more. The problem is that most people only hear about one or two strategies, so they assume early retirement has only one formula: save more, invest more, wait longer. But the truth is much more interesting than that. In this video, we are going to place every strategy on a simple timeline. Imagine year 0 on the far left and year 30 on the far right. Every early retirement method will land somewhere on that timeline, depending on how fast it could realistically help someone step away from a traditional job. To keep the numbers simple, we will use a person earning $100,000 per year. Your own numbers may be different, but this example will make each strategy easier to compare. The first strategy is traditional FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. This is the original recipe. The idea is simple. You save a large part of your income, usually somewhere between 30 and 50%. Then you invest that money into low-cost index funds and follow what is known as the 4% rule. Around 30 years ago, financial advisor William Bengen studied historical market data and found that retirees could withdraw 4% of their portfolio each year without running out of money, even through some of the worst market periods. In simple terms, that means your portfolio should be about 25 times your annual spending. So if you want to withdraw $40,000 per year, you would need $1 million invested. 4% of $1 million gives you $40,000 a year. The hope is that your portfolio keeps growing enough to replace what you withdraw. For our $100,000 earner, traditional FIRE would probably take around 15 to 18 years, depending on savings rate and market returns. So on our timeline, we will place it around year 16. This becomes our baseline. Now let's move to a much faster path: entrepreneur FIRE. Instead of saving your way to freedom, you build a business. That business could be an e-commerce brand, a SaaS product, a content business, or an agency. You work nights and weekends while still earning your regular income. And if the business grows, you either sell it for a large lump sum or turn it into ongoing cash flow. If someone sells a business in 3 to 5 years for around $1.5 to $2 million, they could technically be done under the 4% rule. But this strategy is a huge wildcard. Some people build something that works quickly. Others struggle for years, never get traction, or even lose money. That is why entrepreneur FIRE may be the fastest possible path, but also one of the most unpredictable. If the business does start making money, accounts like a solo 401k or SEP IRA can help shelter income for retirement. A solo 401k can allow contributions as both employee and employer, up to $72,000 per year if the business is doing well. So on the timeline, entrepreneur FIRE lands around year 3, but with a very large asterisk. It can be incredibly fast, but there is no guarantee it works. The next strategy still helps you move toward early retirement, but it works more like a checkpoint than a final destination. This is called Coast FIRE. With Coast FIRE, the goal is to save aggressively in the beginning until you reach a point where you no longer need to contribute to your retirement accounts. Your investments are already large enough that, if left alone, they can compound until traditional retirement age. Now, you are not fully retired yet. You are still working. But the pressure changes. Instead of working a demanding job just to keep investing for the future, you can coast. You can stay in a job that simply covers your current living expenses, or you can take a lower-paying job that you actually enjoy. The money you already invested continues growing quietly in the background. For example, let's say our $100,000 earner saves $40,000 per year for the first 5 years and invests it into index funds. If that person started at age 23, then by age 28, they could have around $253,000 invested. If they stopped contributing completely and let that money compound until age 67, that nest egg could grow to over $5 million. The key detail is time. This strategy works best when you start early because compounding needs decades to do its job. A Roth IRA can be powerful here because it allows tax-free compounding, especially when you front-load the account early. A traditional 401k can also help because the tax break on early contributions can support that compounding process. For many people, Coast FIRE may be possible within 10 years if they save aggressively and keep expenses reasonable. It may be uncomfortable during those early years, but once you hit the coast point, life can feel much lighter. On the timeline, coast fire lands around year 7, but remember that is only the point where you can stop contributing, not the point where you are fully retired. The next strategy is digital nomad fire. This one feels very different because it is built around mobility, remote work, and lifestyle freedom. It did not really exist in the same way 15 years ago. The idea is that you do not need a massive portfolio if you never fully stop earning money. Instead, you build remote income through freelancing, consulting, an online business, or another flexible source of work. Then you combine that income with a smaller investment portfolio and live in a lower cost area. Maybe you travel, live abroad, or move between places while working fewer hours than a traditional corporate schedule. You are not fully retired in the classic sense, but you are financially independent in a different way because you are working on your own terms. A digital nomad might work early in the morning because of time zones and have the rest of the day free. They may still earn money, but they also design their life around freedom right now instead of waiting 20 years for it. Many digital nomads are self-employed, so a solo 401k can be useful. A taxable brokerage account can also help because it gives flexibility and easier access to money. On the timeline, digital nomad fire lands around year 8. Coast fire and digital nomad fire may sound similar because neither one is full retirement, but the lifestyles are very different. Coast fire is about sacrificing early, saving heavily, and then taking a calmer job while compounding does the rest. Digital nomad fire is about building flexible income and shaping your life around freedom as soon as possible. The next strategy can get you to early retirement faster, but it requires a level of sacrifice most people may not want to make. This is called extreme frugality fire. As the name suggests, this strategy is about cutting your living expenses down to the lowest level you can realistically sustain. This could mean living with several roommates, renting the smallest place possible, shopping only at budget grocery stores, avoiding a car payment completely, and canceling every subscription or streaming service that is not absolutely necessary. You are not just being careful with money. You are building your entire lifestyle around spending as little as possible. For our $100,000 earner, this might mean living on only 25 to 30% of their income and saving the rest. If someone spends $30,000 per year, they would need a nest egg of $750,000 to reach financial independence under the 4% rule. With aggressive saving of around $50,000 per year after tax and an 8% market return, that person could potentially reach fire in about 9 to 10 years. That sounds powerful, but there is one major problem. If you retire based on that number, you have to keep living that extremely frugal lifestyle indefinitely. The math works only if the spending stays low. So on the timeline, extreme frugality fire lands around year 9. It is fast, but it comes with a very real cost to comfort and flexibility. Next is barista fire, which usually lands around year 10 or year 11 on the timeline. This is a semi-retirement strategy. The goal is to leave a high-stress career early and replace it with a flexible part-time job. It is called barista fire because people often use a job like working at a coffee shop as the example. The math is simple. You take your annual living expenses and subtract your expected part-time income. If you want to live on $50,000 per year and your part-time job brings in $20,000, then your gap is $30,000. That means your portfolio only needs to cover that gap. Using the 4% rule, $30,000 multiplied by 25 means you need $750,000 invested. One major advantage is that some part-time jobs may offer employer-subsidized health insurance. That can be a huge financial help, especially in the years before traditional retirement age. And this strategy is not limited to coffee shops. You could work at a golf course, take seasonal work at a summer camp, or work at a ski resort. The point is to find a lighter job that gives you income, flexibility, and maybe even a few lifestyle perks. A closely related strategy is hybrid fire. This is basically the expanded version of barista fire. Instead of relying on a simple part-time customer-facing job, you blend investment income with some kind of earned income. That could mean consulting for a few months per year, freelancing, or running a small side business that brings in $25,000 while your portfolio covers the rest. The difference is consistency. A part-time job may be more predictable, while consulting or freelancing income can vary. That is why hybrid FIRE lands a little later, around years 12 to 14. So now the question becomes this: would you rather sacrifice hard for a shorter timeline, work a flexible part-time job to cover the gap, or build a side income that gives you more freedom but less certainty? Because from this point forward, the strategies start becoming less about pure saving and more about designing the kind of life you actually want. The next two strategies are closely related, so they belong together. They are called geo-arbitrage FIRE and expat FIRE. Geo-arbitrage FIRE is the broader idea. You earn income from a high-paying location, such as San Francisco, New York, or Seattle, but you live somewhere your money goes much further. In other words, you keep the income advantage while reducing the cost of your lifestyle. For example, imagine someone earning a tech salary of $180,000 per year from a company based in San Francisco, but they move to a lower-cost city like Bozeman, Montana, or Boise, Idaho. The paycheck is still strong, but rent, food, transportation, and daily life can cost much less. That gap between income and expenses can speed up the journey to financial independence. This strategy becomes even more powerful if you move internationally. Places like Portugal, Mexico, Thailand, or Costa Rica can offer a much lower cost of living than many expensive American cities. But there is one warning. Some companies may adjust your salary if they find out you have moved to a lower cost area. If that happens, the strategy becomes less attractive. But if your income stays the same, geo-arbitrage FIRE can be very effective. Expat FIRE is the more permanent version. Instead of moving somewhere cheaper for a medium-term lifestyle advantage, you move abroad long-term. That means getting a residency visa, setting up a bank account, learning how the local healthcare system works, and building a real life in another country. For our $100,000 earner, the math can change dramatically. If that person spends $60,000 per year in a high-cost city, they would need $1.5 million to retire under the 4% rule. But if they relocate somewhere, their lifestyle costs $35,000 per year. The target portfolio drops to $875,000. They are not saving more money. They are simply lowering the number they need to reach. Both geo-arbitrage FIRE and expat FIRE land around years 11 to 13 on the timeline, close to hybrid FIRE. Now, if extreme frugality FIRE sounded too intense, lean FIRE is the more sustainable version. Instead of spending only $25,000 to $30,000 per year, someone pursuing lean FIRE may spend $35,000 to $40,000. That means the target portfolio is higher, but life is also more livable. You are still cooking at home often. You are still careful with money, but you can go out to eat once in a while, take a budget trip, or keep a gym membership. You are not living extravagantly, but you are not stripping life down to the absolute minimum either. For our $100,000 earner spending $40,000 per year, the target portfolio becomes $1 million. With around $35,000 saved per year after taxes and average market returns, that person might reach lean FIRE around years 13 to 15. So lean FIRE is slower than extreme frugality FIRE by about 4 to 6 years, but the quality of life difference can be huge. Spending $10,000 to $15,000 more per year may make the journey far more sustainable, and sometimes sustainability is what keeps people from quitting the plan entirely. Now we are moving into a different kind of early retirement strategy. Every method so far has used some version of the same basic formula. Save money, invest it, let it grow, and eventually use the 4% rule. But real estate FIRE works differently because instead of depending mainly on a stock portfolio, you build cash flow from rental properties. The most common way people start with real estate FIRE is through house hacking. That means you buy a duplex or a small multifamily property, live in one unit, and rent out the other. Because you live in the property, you may be able to use an FHA loan with as little as 3.5% down instead of needing the 20% down payment that is usually required for an investment property. The rent from the other unit can cover most or even all of your mortgage. That frees up more of your income, which you can then save and use toward the next property. Over time, the idea is to repeat the process. You buy one property, build cash flow, save more money, then buy another one. Maybe each property adds $500 to $1,000 per month in cash flow after mortgage, maintenance, insurance, and other expenses. If you build 3 to 5 units by year 12 to 16, you might generate around $4,000 per month in rental income. That becomes $48,000 to $72,000 per year. That sounds powerful, and many people have used this path successfully. But it is important to understand the trade-off. When you use real estate fire, you are not always becoming completely passive. You may become a landlord. That means dealing with tenants, repairs, late-night maintenance problems, vacancies, and unexpected costs. A broken washing machine at 2 in the morning or a month without a tenant can quickly affect your cash flow. This is why some people do not see real estate fire as true retirement. In their eyes, you are not fully leaving work. You are trading your job for the work of managing properties. It can still be a legitimate strategy, especially because real estate lets you use leverage. You are using the bank's money to acquire assets, and your tenants help pay down the mortgage. But with higher interest rates, this strategy has become harder than it used to be. On the timeline, real estate fire lands around years 12 to 16, so we will place it at year 15. The next strategy is dividend fire. This one is psychologically appealing to many people because the goal is to build a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks and live off the income without selling the original shares. The idea is simple. You own stocks that pay dividends, and those dividends become the cash flow that supports your lifestyle. For example, if you want $50,000 per year in dividend income and your portfolio has a 4% dividend yield, you would need $1.25 million invested in dividend-paying stocks. The math is easy to understand, but getting there takes time. For our $100,000 earner, building a portfolio that large may take 20 to 25 years of consistent saving and investing. That means dividend fire is usually slower than traditional fire. But the emotional benefit is clear. Many people like the feeling of not touching their principal. Instead of selling shares every year, they receive income from the portfolio itself. The stocks continue to exist, and the dividends keep arriving. For some investors, that feels safer and more stable. Dividend-paying stocks are also often seen as less volatile, which may help people sleep better at night. Knowing that your portfolio is producing regular income can make retirement feel more comfortable, even if the timeline is longer. So on the timeline, dividend fire lands somewhere between years 20 and 25. We will place it around year 22. Now we are entering the long game strategies. These are not the fastest ways to retire early, but they can still be powerful for the right person. The first one is pension fire. Pension fire is different because it is not mainly about building an investment portfolio. It is about working in a government, military, or union job long enough to earn a defined benefit pension. After enough years of service, that pension can provide a guaranteed monthly check for the rest of your life. For our $100,000 earner, that pension might eventually be worth $50,000 to $70,000 per year. That is valuable because it does not depend on stock market returns. You do not have to worry about selling shares or whether the market is down. You receive steady income that continues for life. The trade-off is time. You may need to stay in the same career path for 20, 30, or even 40 years. So on the timeline, pension fire lands around year 25, though for some people it could be closer to year 30 or later. Next is slow fire, which is almost the opposite of extreme frugality fire. Instead of cutting everything and rushing toward financial independence as fast as possible, you save around 15 to 20% of your income while still enjoying your life along the way. For someone earning $100,000 per year, that means saving $15,000 to $20,000 annually. It may not create an ultra-early retirement, but it is realistic and sustainable. You may not retire at 40, but you might retire at 57, 58, or 59 instead of waiting until 67. On the timeline, slow fire lands around years 25 to 30, so we will place it at year 27. The final strategy is fat fire. This is financial independence on a much larger scale. Fat fire means retiring with enough wealth to spend $100,000, $200,000, or even $500,000 per year. This is the version of retirement where someone may travel in luxury, live in a multi-million-dollar home, dine out whenever they want, and have a large discretionary budget. But the reality is that most people will not reach fat fire on a normal income. People in this category often have $5 to $10 million or more invested. They may be doctors who own their own practice, high-level tech executives, or business owners who sold a company for millions. For our $100,000 earner, fat fire is unlikely unless income rises dramatically, a business succeeds, or equity turns into a major payout. That means fat fire may take 28 to 35 years, and it might not even fit on our 30-year timeline. So there you have it. 15 different strategies for early retirement, from the fastest and riskiest path of entrepreneur fire to the slower but more luxurious dream of fat fire. Some strategies require sacrifice. Some require creativity. Some depend on location, part-time income, real estate, dividends, or a long career with a pension. The real question is not which strategy sounds the most impressive. The real question is which one fits the life you actually want to live. Are you closest to traditional fire, lean fire, dividend fire, or something completely different? Think about your income, your expenses, your risk tolerance, and the kind of freedom you are really trying to buy. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you may also want to watch the next video about the financial traps people face as your net worth grows. And let me know which fire strategy you are closest to right now.